Kita bersinar, BDT buka mata dunia, Sabah dan Indo satu frekuensi sama irama silaturahmi lewat video kita terus maju. BDT channel reaksi bikin bersatu. Assalamualaikum guys, kumaha damang sampurasun sareng wilujeng sumping di channel abdi saya BDT dari Borneo Sabah akan menemani kawan-kawan semua dalam episode reaction kali ini. Apa pendapat kawan-kawan semua tentang ibu kota baru IKN Nusantara? Apa pendapat kalian? Komen di ruang komentar di bawah guys. Jadi hari ini kita akan nonton tentang video ini, dan kalian juga tahu kota Jakarta sudah semakin padat, dan untuk pemerataan ekonomi ini kota Jakarta ini dipindahkan, bukan lagi menjadi sebuah ibu negara, tetapi dibikin ataupun dibuat satu ibu kota baru untuk Indonesia, yaitu IKN Nusantara. Jadi kita akan nonton video ini guys. Ojo lali di subscribe channelku, jangan lupa klik like, komen, dan share. Dan moga-moga kawan-kawan yang menonton dalam keadaan yang sehat, dimurahkan rezeki, dipermudahkan segala urusan dunia dan akhirat. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Tanpa buang-buang waktu, kita sama-sama nonton guys. Isi kandungan video ini 1, 2.
And home to over 10 million people. It's overcrowded, polluted, and it's literally sinking into the ocean. This is Nusantara, the future capital city, opening later this year with construction already in full swing. Nusantara isn't ready just yet, but it promises to be smart forest. Price tag of an estimated $33 billion, supposed to be a high-tech metropolis, powered by renewables and perfectly blending in with the surrounding environment. In today's video, we're going to look at how Southeast Asia's biggest country is planning to carve out a brand new megacity right from the jungle, and why this is not only beneficial, but also problematic. Just a quick reminder, in 7 days, we're changing our name from Top Luxury to Mega Builds. Indonesia's newest city doesn't look like much yet, but it's gonna be a game changer. On a site 4 times bigger than Jakarta and 40 times bigger than Manhattan, construction is underway on the first of 5 phases, all of which are due to be completed by 2045. It might seem enormous, especially because it's only being built for less than 2 million people, but that's because 65% of the city is going to be green space, with forests, gardens, and parks. Another 10% of the city will be taken up by farming, meaning that only 1/4 of Nusantara will be covered in buildings. This is all part of Indonesia's target to be carbon neutral by 2060, and Nusantara is a big part of that. It'll be powered entirely by renewables, and 80% of journeys within the city will be by public transport, walking, or cycling. Thanks to a smart public transport system, you're supposed to reach everything you need, like shops, restaurants, and so on, within 10 minutes, no matter where you live. And the urban rainforests that weave through the city will make Nusantara feel more like something out of Avatar than real life. If the plans are anything to go by, living here doesn't look too bad. At first glance, Nusantara looks like a paradise. That's even too good to be true. So, to understand it properly, let's zoom out for a second and look at why exactly it's being built in the first place. Indonesia is an island nation, otherwise known as an archipelago. In fact, it's actually the biggest archipelago in the world, with over 17,000 individual islands. Since the 1600s, the capital city has been here, on the north coast of the island of Java, but Jakarta was never built to house the 10 million people that live there today. 13 separate rivers run through Jakarta, and flooding is a massive problem. This is made even worse by poor water management. A large percentage of the population relies on groundwater, which also comes from wells. These wells draw water from far below the city, weakening the earth and causing the ground to shift underfoot. As a result, Jakarta is actually sinking into the ocean. The sea varies, but some neighborhoods sink as many as 11 inches a year, making it the fastest sinking city in the world. In fact, 40% of Jakarta is already below sea level. With oceans set to continue rising, Jakarta has a major problem on it.
Ini alasan
In this whole situation, Indonesia decided to build a new capital city over 700 miles away, right in the middle of the jungle. This is the island of Borneo. It's the 3rd largest island on the planet, and it's covered by a massive rainfall. The island is split between Malaysia and Brunei in the north and Indonesia in the south. And over here, in a region called East Kalimantan, is where Nusantara is being built. Why here? Well, the location is actually more central to Indonesia. This should allow better connectivity between the government and the many parts of the country. At the same time, it'll also redistribute resources and people away from the island of Java, which currently makes up over 60% of the national economy. East Kalimantan is also better protected from natural disasters like floods and earthquakes that affect much of the country. On top of that, the rainforest offers an enormous amount of natural resources, as well as the natural beauty and biodiversity. There's also just a lot more space, something that's severely lacking in Jakarta. It's been overcrowded and sinking for decades now, which might make you wonder, why has it taken so long to start this process? Well, the idea of moving the capital isn't actually a new one. It was first discussed way back in the 1950s, but no one was prepared to push for it as much as the current president, Joko Widodo. Widodo, who was a furniture maker before getting into politics, became the governor of Jakarta in 2012.
Ini semua
It wasn't until he was elected president in 2014 that he could really make progress on his dream of a new Indonesian capital. Finally, in 2019, he officially announced the plan to relocate. So, what is the vision for this new capital? 300 different companies actually submitted design for the Nusantara, but it was an Indonesian architecture and design firm, Urban Plus, who were eventually selected to design the majority of the city. Their vision creates a city that works with the natural environment rather than against it. A smart urban landscape that captures the biodiversity of Indonesia, as well as its rich cultural heritage. Nusantara actually means archipelago, and the look around the city clearly shows how the designers have tried to capture the identity of the island nation. So let's take a look at some designs today. Elevated walkways will provide links between transport hubs, allowing residents to access the fully electric public transport system and avoid the hilly jungle terrain. These walkways, along with some of the buildings that are on stilts, will allow better airflow and rainwater dispersal throughout the city. Sounds rather elaborate to put buildings on stilts, but this is nothing new in Indonesia. Many homes are raised above the ground to protect them from flooding, and the same technique. In Phase 1, the focus is on the so-called governmental zone, made up of government offices, the palaces and buildings for branches of the army and police. The next phases of construction will have a little bit more time to come together, with 4 to 5 years planned for each separate stage. Phase 2 will see big development in what's called mixed-use areas, and is scheduled to be finished later this year. This means that areas will be developed for industry and business, as well as educational institutions, food, and retail. By the end of this phase, in 2029, the government plans for 1.2 million people to have relocated to Nusantara. Kind of hard to believe when you look at the building site that's standing there today. In only 5 years, 1.2 million people are going to live here? Do you even think that's possible? Phase 3, starting in 2030, will see the development of a mass transportation system, as well as the expansion of waste and water management projects, and a focus on the economic development of local businesses. Regional railway networks will be laid as part of Phase 4, as well as an extension of education and health services due to the projected population increase. The final phase of construction, due for completion in time for the 100th anniversary of Indonesian independence in 2045, will involve more industrial development and a focus on stable population growth, with a planned 1.9 million residents. That's if everything goes to plan, though. With only a few months to go until the official opening, it's already being talked about that meeting the deadlines might be tough. Construction has been slower than planned due to severe tropical weather and supply chain issues. Gathering all the necessary resources to build a city from scratch isn't easy, especially in this jungle location. And this is where the multiple issues arise. If you enjoyed this video so far, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. We really have problems. Firstly, there have been a lot of illegal mining operations in this area. East Kalimantan has enormous reserves of natural resources like coal, oil, nickel, and gold. According to surveys from the Environment and Forestry Minister, via Bakar, there are around 2,400 abandoned mines on the site of Nusantara alone. In order to continue construction, these pits need to be rebuilt. And although this should be done by the mining companies, the government is now largely paying for it. Secondly, funding also appears to be a big challenge. 20% of the $33 billion budget is coming from the Indonesian state, but the remaining 80% is supposed to be financed through domestic and foreign investment.
Oke guys, Jadi demikian video yang baru kita nonton bareng. Jadi apa pendapat kalian? Itulah alasan-alasan kenapa ibu kota Indonesia, Jakarta dipindahkan, dan bagi saya dia punya konsep smart city ini memang menarik dan luar biasa sekali guys. Jadi saya rasa sampai di sini dulu video pada kali ini. Kalau kalian ada masukan, komen di ruang komentar di bawah guys ya. Sampai kita ketemu di episode akan datang. Salam damai, salam silaturahmi. Sampai kita jumpa. Assalamualaikum. Salam Nusantara. Yo teman-teman, ojo lali di subscribe yo channelku.